To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. We've got Supervisor Decker excused. We'll move on to citizen comments. Anybody wishing to speak, citizen comments? You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
In 20th Avenue Lower. I reside in Kenosha, in the county of Kenosha. I'm here to speak dealing with transportation, public, not specialized, not vehicular, as in, I'm a disabled resident of Kenosha County, although ambulatory was respiratory. My grandfather on the Italian side had black lung when he worked in a coal mine, so, there's a history of respiratory stuff there. 3 jobs I have found out I didn't get in food service, all of them because of public transportation. Aurora Hospital, the Meyer, they called me from Michigan. First time I got a call from out of state about a job since I graduated with an applied science degree from Brookside back in 1982. Recently, yesterday, I got something on my phone, the fancy Galaxy S6 where it shows you the text part, right? Some guy by the name of Brad that owned 2 subways, one in Pleasant Prairie, by the Prime Outlets Mall, one in by 52nd Street and 39th by Los Carnitas, the one that had the problem with the salmonella. Where does the job end up being? Pleasant Prairie. I'm a Division of Vocational Rehabilitation client. I have a food manager certification from the state of Wisconsin, obtained, and is going to be good till 2020. I took the test at the Broad Stop, so I am ready and available for work part-time. But I think there's a lot of potential money that could be saved the county in human services cost, as Mr. Rose, when he was the chairman of the Human Services Committee, mentioned about transportation. Also, we found there was 40,000 people connected to employment in Milwaukee County before our present governor became before he became county executive. So I think there is a potential to save this county money in terms of being able to have transit that gets people to the jobs where they need to go, that don't have, bus transportation or vehicles. We have a constant influx, even though W-2 has been of people that come here for the benefits, not back in the 40s and 50s like when they came here for work. So I just want to bring this to the attention. As for those that say, well, I don't live out in the county, I live in the city of Kenosha. Well, whether they choose to live in a dream world or not, they pay county taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Citizen comments is closed. Move on to announcements to the chairman. Yeah, I have a few here. This afternoon, you all should have received an email from the Corporation Council Secretary in regards to submitting questions for our local state legislators who will be meeting with the Executive Committee next week, Monday at 6 p.m. in this building on the 2nd floor boardroom. You're all welcome to attend. We would like for all of you to submit questions to Emily Bruno of the Corporation Council office by noon of this Thursday. And then that's all I have. Thank you. Move on. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Alverman, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We last evening met with Highways, Parks, Golf, Facilities. There's something else in there, but briefly, the Brookside development project update. We all were naturally made very aware of the rough design plans Right now, we're working on some completed drawings. They were completed as of 7/21. The project budget will be updated to reflect the new information and should be updated by mid-August. We're going to have a formal project update plan and to prepare that for full board presentation later this fall, prior to the bid-ready documents. So right now, they're still working on, bid alternates and fine-tuning that before they bring it back to the county board. The Highway Department, we have many new projects, and besides the planned projects we found out last evening, and I found out earlier in the week, we've been hired by the state to even do more, even though you hear the state didn't have money for certain projects. For this, they do. For maintenance, for new projects, they're not. So besides what Mr. Sipsma had planned, the state has hired us to re-shoulder all 4 lanes of Highway 50 from Paddock Lake to the Walworth County line. That's a very big project, besides what he's got for his crews to do. And the new growth, all the new intersections that we're doing, the transfer of ownership for certain highways that we're doing with the county, or with the city. There's a whole lot going on, and there's enough going on that our people have been working 4 days a week, 4 tens, and we actually may be going to some 5-day weeks at no cost to us, because these are all paying propositions that have come into us. It's not like this is actually money-making revenue enhancement to the Highway Department, but they're very, very busy. Golf, we have a very good outlook right now. The caddy program, I know people had heard about that. It was very well received. The golf operation is receiving, again, very high grades this year. We have one problem out there. We have, for the 4th year in a row at Petrifying Springs, our food service manager is leaving. Received a full-time, part-time teacher's job and gave notice, but it really puts us in a scramble, especially this time of year, because we lose a lot of the part-time people. The parks are booming. Many projects there. I just took a ride through Kemper because we received 2 of the new light poles. If anybody's seen the new parking lot, the hooking into the hiking and biking trail that's gone there. Some restoration that was done that was a little bit rough, and they're coming back in, but that's looking very well. So that's a brief report from last evening, and we will keep you updated.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Move on to Supervisor Boyd Frederick. You have the floor.
Yes. Quick briefing on what happened at the last WCA meeting. Just so you know, the dues to join WCA have not changed. In fact, they have not changed since they were figured in 1978. Mostly our meeting dealt with the governor's budget, where there was 104 vetoes. Shared revenue will remain the same dollar amount as in the previous budget. The coroner's fees will also remain the same. ADRC was saved for this budget. However, it is going to be reviewed in the next biennium budget. And also with WCA, we passed a resolution when it came to federal highway funding and working with local governments. And also the WCA is changing how we're going to be governed. President Johnson will be the last president, and we're going to do a chairmanship, and the number of individuals on the WCA board will drop from 28 to 23, which ironically is what we did for the county board here a few years ago. And our next meeting will be held September 20th out in La Crosse in accordance with the WCA convention.
Thank you. Supervisor Hallman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of notes from Human Services. We met yesterday evening at 6:30. Probably the thing that folks should be aware of is we reviewed the second quarter of budget for Human Services. If we were to, shall we say, close the budget today in the second quarter for us, the Human Services Department would need $675,000 more in tax levy. There are 2 major reasons for this. The first being is that St. Luke's, where we used to send some folks who had severe mental health issues, has lost 3 psychiatrists. We don't know why, but they are down 3. In addition to that, since we now have more folks that actually have insurance, they're doing what people should do, which is to come forward and seek help. That makes it difficult for us to bring our people into St. Luke's, and so then the other option that we have is to send them to the mental institutes run by the state, which are considerably expensive. So as a result of that, that has driven costs up in one area of the budget. The other is in the Department of Children and Family Services, where one of the screening tools that they utilize for placing kids factors in some new information, and as a result, some of those families that are taking kids into foster care actually need a little bit more because those kids are shown to be in more need. The average days of stay are less, but the rate is higher, and so that has also contributed to the increased costs as well. There's been some conversation in the Human Services Committee about a potential town hall meeting on mental health. Laverne Jaros has paired up with a retired person from the State Department of Health Services who specializes in mental health to try to get a better assessment of our area locally in terms of what we're doing to see if we're maximizing every opportunity we have with our community partners to actually get our folks help. We've been in conversation, obviously, with the committee and the department. Certainly, we all recognize that this is something that needs state and federal attention, which, for lack of a better word, is wonderful for us because it means that we can play a very pivotal role in terms of bringing those folks to the table. In other words, what does our healthcare workforce look like from the State Department of Workforce Development standpoint? What is the Medical College of Wisconsin doing in terms of putting people in the pipeline to be, whether it's nurse practitioners that can dispense psychiatry meds or even psychiatrists themselves? So it gives us a chance to have that conversation, find some answers, and take the lead on fixing this, because it is a statewide problem as well as a national problem, but I think we're positioned very neatly to take the lead on this in an interesting way. Additionally, I attended the National Association of Counties Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. This would have been 5 weeks ago. While I was there as part of the NACO Next Gen group, which is the younger NACO, although there's no number, it's for folks who have more energy, I guess is what folks decided. We participated in a service project at a domestic violence shelter that simply was scrubbing and cleaning the place and organizing cabinets. The other half of that day was spent in a session on technology as part of the day-long technology summit. There were some interesting things that were said in that, but one of the things that I noted that's important for us is many times when you email some of our divisions and you ask them for information, at least I know some of the things I've asked for, the responses come back, we don't track that, or the state has it. One of the things I'm realizing is that puts us at a very severe disadvantage, because the trend in 21st century governing is to look at the data in terms of your population, whether it's health statistics, whether it's income, whatever it is, and be able to make decisions off of that. Electeds, not necessarily just administration, but electeds. We don't necessarily have that capability. I mean, I'll ask one honest question, for example. Do you know the education statistics of the constituents that live in your districts? How many folks have bachelor's degrees? How many folks maybe only have an 8th grade education? That's important, and we should have the ability to get that and to know what that is. So then when we do other things, we can target our efforts in terms of job creation more seriously. And so that surfaced as being something very, very important for us. I'm not necessarily sure how we fix that. I will note that for WCA, as part of the structure, there really is not a conversation that is had about technology. There is for telecommunications, but not technology. Also, while I was at NACO, I'm also a member of the Transportation Steering Committee. The Transportation Steering Committee took votes just to solidify its platform and the things that it wants to see out of the reauthorization of MAP 21 that have basically been chopped into pieces. Continuing resolutions, 3 months funding here, 4 months funding there. You should know that the LGBT group is working on becoming a caucus. Why should you care? One of the things that you're going to see probably in the next 8 to 9 months across this nation is a lot of conversation about legislation protecting transgendered individuals, if you haven't seen it already. This group is already looking at trading best practices for non-discrimination ordinances and what would be helpful to trans folks. So as they pull themselves together and get organized, you can expect to probably see some things through NACO about that. In addition to that, the lobbying group HRC, which works at the national level on LGBT issues, puts out a municipal equality index. This is another reason why you should care. Part of the scoring in that index are certain pieces of legislation that you may have, like a non-discrimination ordinance that covers folks on the basis of gender identity and expression, as well as citizen human rights councils, those kinds of things. So when someone is looking to move to your county, maybe they have, you know, a small IT firm, maybe they're worth $100,000, $200,000. They say, I'd like to locate there, but I can see they don't have these things based off of the municipal equality index put together by HRC. It becomes a problem. So that's an area that we may want to look at, because I believe in the previous one, we only got a 60%. And regardless as to what education institution you're in, I believe 60% is still considered failing. We may want to address that. The Health Committee at NACO sponsored a breakfast bringing together the conversations that have been had around oral health in terms of dental care and mental health, and getting people to realize that there is actually a link in between. So a tooth examination can reveal heart disease. It can also reveal potential mental health issues, as well as be the first sign of HIV. So they wanted people to be aware of that, and so they hosted a breakfast to do that. That, they have said, will also be ongoing as well in terms of notifying counties and getting people to understand the link between the two. The new president of NACO is Miss Sally Clark. She is from El Paso County, Colorado. And she will be making a visit to Wisconsin this fall, I believe, for the annual WCA convention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Kohlmeyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take a quick minute to recognize the local business Bain Nelson Incorporated. It's recently celebrated their 50th year of business in Kenosha, their 50th anniversary. My grandfather started the company in 1965, and he's 86 today and still working, works most Saturdays, so they employed many people. Just want to take a minute. They just recently had their 50th year picnic, and just thought it was a great accomplishment for a local business, and also my grandfather, so a little personal note, so thank you.
Congratulations, thank you. Move on to, seeing no other lights, we'll move on to county executive appointments. County Clerk.
County Executive Appointment 10, Amy Malat to serve on the Kenosha County Workforce Development Board.
Refer to Human Service Committee.
11, Supervisor Leah Blau to serve on the Kenosha County Human Service Board.
Refer to Human Service Committee.
Resolution 25 from Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Aloysius L.E. Nelson as the Director of the Division of Veteran Services. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes. Anita Johnson excused. Decker excused. Arrington excused. Blau, yes. Retzloff, yes.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move resolution number 25.
Resolution 25 has been moved by Supervisor Hallman, seconded by Supervisor Gable. Supervisor Hallman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This gentleman, Mr. Nelson, who is up for the Division of Veterans Affairs, actually is a Kenosha County resident, but has been working in Racine for quite some time. He has now been gifted through us because he wants to spend more time with his family. Mr. Nelson is present for those who have questions. The committee was quite satisfied last night. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Retzloff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take a second, and if you have an opportunity to look at Mr. Nelson's resume, it is one impressive piece of work. Yeah, kind of makes you think, what have I been doing with my life when you look at something like this? We're lucky to have this gentleman. I have a feeling he won't be here long because he's probably destined for much bigger things, probably on a federal level, but what a gentleman to have here, and I can't tell you how impressed I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for those comments. Seeing no other lights, this is a simple majority vote. All those in favor of Resolution 25 say yea. All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Welcome aboard, sir. Stick around for a while too, would you please? I mean, don't go on to the federal level is what I'm trying to say. You can go on anything. Thank you.
Claims, number 7, Clifton Palmer, Trover Solutions, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
Renee Prochnow, vehicle damage.
Refer to Corporation Council. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Anita Johnson, seconded by Supervisor.
Approval of the minutes.
approve the minutes from the last meeting?
We can do that.
No, you forgot. They're going to do it at the next meeting, remember?
We can do that on the next meeting, correct? We'll pair that up on the next meeting. Does that suffice with you, Supervisor Dodge? No problem. All right, thank you. Going back to the adjournment tonight, we have Supervisor Anita Johnson moving for adjournment. We have Supervisor Daniel Esposito for a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimously. Have a good evening.
We talked about that.